Hello, first learners. Welcome back to our PHP fundamentals session 2. Uh, basically, in this video, we're going to talk about a few things. One, we're going to learn how to set our VS Code. That is to add some extensions in our VS Code. Then we shall talk about commenting. How do we comment in PHP? We shall see how we output. We display things in for our user using in PHP. Then we shall talk about the data types, variables, and val dump. And later, in the end of everything, we shall have to write a simple program, PHP program, to calculate an area, basically to wrap up whatever that we will have covered in this second session. Okay, and to start with, literally what we're going to do, as for now, when you see in my VS Code, I am in my first PHP website, but since I want us to go to follow up with the first video, what we're going to do, we're going to go back to our local disk C. Go to our local disk C, go to XAMPP, and then go in the htdocs folder. Now in the folder, remember, that's where I have my first PHP website, and then the original that had my files. Let me hope you watched the first video. Now this time around, the fact that we are going to be learning and programming some different things, I'll create a new folder, and I have chosen to name it session session 2. Okay, so after naming my folder session 2, I'll go back to VS Code, then go to file. When I go to file, I go to open folder, and then when I open folder, the fact that I had gone to XAMPP already, that just allocating me to this. However, if you're not seeing this straight away, you can go to this PC, then go to local disk C, go to XAMPP, htdocs, and boom, here you are. So I'll select the session 2 folder where I want my the things we're going to program today to be stored. So right away, as I told you, that you go to this icon, that is when you hover on it, shows new file. So you click, and then you start with index. Name it index.php. Okay, index.php. Okay, yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is how do we comment in PHP. So commenting in PHP, we have a single line comment and double line comment. Commenting is simply adding notes to your code that are not executed by the computer. That there are times whereby this is the normal comments that we have been making even in other programming languages. Yes, that just you're adding some notes, some information to your code that is not executed. For example, if I open my PHP, that remember, how do we start the syntax for PHP? We open the angle bracket, question mark, PHP, enter, question mark, close the tag. So inside here, this is where our code will be. So I am just entering so that I can have space. So in here within these tags is where we're going to write our PHP codes. Okay, so when I'm writing, like let me say I'm writing echo, this is a code that is going to be executed. However, if I want to write a code just maybe to communicate or just to add notes in my code, I'll comment. And how do we comment? We use 2 forward slashes. Okay, 2 forward slashes, and then whatever I'm writing, this is how we comment. So when when I remove, when I happen to remove the forward slashes, you'll see even the color changes. Okay, so but when I place them back, it turns everything into a comment, and it will be and that code or that information will not be executed by the computer. Giving another example is that I could say like maybe something like echo um, first learners. So maybe I want to display first learners. So what I'll go to the browser, and then when I go to the browser, I'll go to my browser, and then I'll write there localhost, enter. So when I write localhost, it will take me to the HTML and to the htdocs. And now in my htdocs this time around, I have 3 folders: the original, my first PHP website, and then session 2. So, and this is where I want to go. So when I click in session 2, it is showing me fast learners, the code that I have programmed in my VS Code. So how comments work is that the moment I can make this line of code a comment by just implementing the forward slash. It will turn it, even the color will turn. So when I go back to my browser and I refresh, it will show nothing. The fact that the same code cannot be executed. Okay, let me hope that is clear. So when I remove them and I go back and I refresh it, then the code that wanted to execute will be executed again. Okay, well, I hope that is very clear about comments. That the way you comment, you use a forward slash, that is for a single line comment. But one other thing I can say, if you want double line comment, maybe multiple lines, we just use one forward slash, then a italic, and then we also bring another italic, and then again forward slash. So in here is where we shall be doing our multiple lines of comments. Okay, well, that being said, we have talked about comments. That is number one. So the other thing is that how do we output? The other point is outputting out outputting in PHP. So how do we output? How do we display information or data to the user? Basically, we use echo in PHP to display information, or to show information to our user. So I can say, how has been your day? I think we have seen this several times, that in even our first video we're using echo to display information. So the moment I use echo and then I go back to my browser, I refresh, it will show us how has been your day. It is displaying. So that is one way we output our information in a PHP. Going back to the VS Code, let me hope that is very clear. Yeah, we shall see that there are even other ways we can use, like val dump, to also display information, and even to display more information about the single line of code. However, for now, that is it. So one other thing we can talk about here is let's talk about data types, variables, and if time allows, also we shall talk about val dump. Okay, to start with, mind you, note that I'm writing everything, I'm programming everything between these tags. Okay, So the moment I write outside of these tags, this will cause an error. So we must make sure that we are writing within the tags. Okay. And now, one I would like to talk about variables. I'll start with variables. So variables, these are things that we have to understand. The fact that we are going to be playing with data, we need to understand the different types of data types out there. We need to understand what a variable is. So in simple terms, a variable, you can take a variable as a container that stores your data. It's a container. You can term it as a container that stores your data or information. Okay, information. So whenever we talk about a variable is simply a container that stores data. Okay, now variables have different names, different rules, but we want to understand one thing we are talking about here is that a variable in PHP has to have a name. A variable, let me say this, your container has to have a name. Let me say however, one key thing to put in place when you to write a variable name, you start with the dollar symbol, then you give it a name. Let me say age. Okay, and then I can terminate. So this is a variable. However, this variable, we said it's a container that stores data. Maybe I want to say this container called age equals, it is storing a data called 25. Okay, so it means that this line of code it's a variable storing a value 25. Okay, we can go ahead and echo out this and see. So when I say echo, I'm echoing the variable which is age. Okay, when we go to our browser and refresh, it will show you 25. This means that the echoing code of line shows that the variable age is storing a value, that your container age is storing a value 25. Okay, so a variable is simply a container. You can name any kind of name to on a variable. Okay, so having known that, let us continue to talk more about data types. Okay, we have realized that we have a container that we use to store our data, and that is a variable. It has a variable name that basically starts with a dollar sign, and this name can be any of your random. I can still call this, that was age. I can say maybe years. That's just your naming, and then when you're also equaling, you have to bring years. Okay, so the moment let me change even the value. The moment I go on my browser, I refresh, it will give me still the what, a value that is stored by this variable. Okay, right now allow me to run first to data types. Okay, data types. So when you come to data types, for data types, there are very many types of data. Just as you hear it, that you have some information but is of different types. For example, I would like to say, I'm using comments to make the notes here. So types of data types, the different types of data types we know. One is we have strings. We have strings. We have numbers or integers. You can call them integers. We have floats. We have array. We have another also object. Okay, so these are some of the different data types that we have. So to start with, we have to understand that let me just go straight away. What are strings? What are integers? What are floats, array, and objects? So when we talk about this kind of data type, kind of uh, data types of data types, one thing we must have in mind is that, let me say I have a variable. Let me use an example of a variable called, remember, for a variable set with a dollar sign, let me say name. The variable name is name equals. Now for a string, because it's a text, strings are texts, we don't write them openly, we put them in double quotes or single quotes. So I write double quotes, then maybe first line. So that is a string. So this is a variable called name, storing a value of a string called first line. The moment I get to echo out this, let me say I'm echoing out um, um, I'm echoing out this variable called name. We shall get to see that when I go to the browser, refresh, it will say first lane. Okay, well, even sometimes maybe you just want to know the type of could be you want to understand the type of data type that this is. Maybe you don't know that it's a string, so you just say echo get type, and then you write there the variable you want to get the type. So the variable was name. So that's what I want to see. What is the type of data type that is saved by this container called name? So the moment I go back to the browser, I refresh, they'll say that that is a string, that the container named as as name is having a value of a string. Okay, well, that being said, I can also give an example of an integer. I'll just use here age. Variable name is age, and then I'll give it, let me say 34. Okay, now one thing to note here, I don't for the data type integer or numbers, we don't put them in double quotes, in quotes. When you put them in quotes, then you're turning them into a string. Okay, so when we would echo the type, echo get type, okay, age, when I go to my browser, refresh, they will tell you that is an integer. Okay, and we are seeing it very clear that the variable age is storing an integer 34. Okay, what else? Okay, now we can also have let me say amount, and to give an example of a float, amount, let me say 34.89. okay, and let me say 8, and then I'll echo out get type amount. Okay, when I go back on the browser, I refresh, it will call. Okay, this time around you would expect to have a word float, but it brings double. Yeah, float is also another double is also another type of float that we usually have. Okay, yeah, well, that being said, we have seen so far a variable, a data type called an integer, a string, a double, or a float. Okay, but then we mentioned that we also have an array. Okay, so with an array, we can say, let me create an array of, I will create an array of fruits. Maybe you have fruits. okay, fruits. And the way we write arrays, we use the brackets, and then you can go ahead to mention them. So this is an array. So okay, before we write an array, what is basically an array? So with the array, you just take it as a variable, a container that stores different types of values. That here in the first place we are having a variable that stores only a certain value. Let me say it has an integer. It only has a string. Okay. Yes. But then when we go further and we talk about for the array, just it's a variable that can hold multiple values. So that's why you see if I'm creating a variable like fruits, I can, since I want to mention a lot more than one fruit, I can use an array which is a variable that can hold multiple values. For example, I want to say mangoes. um, we can have apples, we can have oranges, and so forth. Okay, so this array array, this is an array because it is a variable with a variable name of fruits, and the values are mangoes, multiple values are mangoes, apples, and oranges. Okay. Yes. One thing I want us to notice is that when we echo get type fruit. Okay, let's see what happens. Go to the browser, refresh. It's an array. Okay, it's an array. It's giving us the variable fruits is having multiple values, and so that means that is an array. Okay. So that being said, I think we are doing very well. I believe if we understand basically very well the data types and the variables, the other things are going to be a bit easier because these are the things that we literally apply in the core concepts. So it is good to understand what a variable is and what a data type is, and the different types of data types. Okay, proceeding, let's talk a few things about the variable rules in PHP. So one of the rule we have all just seen is that a variable starts with a $sign. So you have seen that whenever I was writing any type of variable, any kind of variable, I started with a $sign and then I gave it a name. Okay. So for example, allow me to first clear with this, if you don't mind. Okay. Also clear out this. So for example, I started with $sign and I was like, maybe my name, name equals let me say Trevor. That's my name. So if I echo out a name, $sign name, the variable name, and I go back to and I go back to my browser. When I refresh, it will display to the user. This is being seen by the user, and this is what you've programmed. Okay, fine. Now, however, I want us to notice that rule one was that a variable name starts with a $sign. So let me say I didn't start with a $sign. I just wrote name equals Trevor. The moment I go and I refresh and I go to my browser, Sorry about that. I go. So it's giving us there's a syntax error, that there is a problem with the variables. There is a problem with our syntax. Okay, so that's why I've told you that one of the rules of variables is that they do start with a dollar sign. Well, that is, if that is very well mentioned, let's proceed. The other rule is that variable names must follow a valid name. That is to say, they must include, maybe they can include letters, numbers, underscores. However, variable names can't start with a number. I repeat that. Variable names, that these names that we randomly give to a variable, to a container, cannot start with a number. Let me say this is our this was a variable called name, and stored a value of a string which is Trevor. So if had I given it maybe one name, and I put a number in front, let me say one name, and then I save, I go to the browser, it will literally give me what? An error. And they're saying that the syntax error, unexpected integer one expecting variable. Okay, so that means that I went against my what? The rules of variables. Rule number one was that it must start with a dollar sign. Rule number two, it must follow a valid name. Names must follow valid names. For example, names cannot start with a number. Well, that being mentioned, let's get off away with this number so that we have our work well. So the third rule is that variable names are case sensitive, which means that are case sensitive. Okay, so okay, first thing is that now case sensitivity. Case sensitive. So variable names are case sensitive. What does that mean? So this line of code name is not the same as this one. Capital name equals slav. Okay, so so the two lines of code here, they're not the same, even though you could feel like this variable name is name and this is name. But the fact that this one starts with a small letter and this starts with a capital letter, these are two different things. Okay, and when I execute, when I run this code on my browser, it will execute slow. The fact that this is what I'm echoing on that screen. If I put a small n, that's when it will bring back Trevor, because Trevor is the value stored by the what? The variable name of small letter. Okay, and one other last thing is that variables must be assigned a value before used in your program. They must be assigned a value before used in your program, and also you must note that variables can be reassigned a new value at any time. Okay, so for example, we are using this variable name. So if in the first line of code is that's this variable, let me first comment this line of code here. So the name here, the variable name equals Trevor. When I echo out, it was giving me Trevor. Okay, so let me say that this same variable down here, I give it another what? Another value of Slav. And when the moment I refresh on my browser, it will give me what? Slav, because this is the reassigned value. So it will ignore the first assigned value of Trevor, and then it will give us the what? The reassigned one, which is Slav. And by the time we echo, it will give us Slav. Well, Hope that is clear. Okay, so having said that, is that we have to remember just a few rules. That variable rules, the variable rules in PHP are: a variable should start with a $sign. We have talked about that. Variable names must follow a valid name. However, variable names can't start with a number. Variable names are case sensitive, so you must understand that, and variables can be reassigned a new value at any time. Okay. That being said, there's one other thing I want to include here. The one other thing I want to have in this is, let's talk about concatenation. Okay, let's talk at this very point of time. You can talk about concatenation in PHP. So what is concatenation? So concatenation is just a process of combining two or more strings together to create a single string. Okay, so let me say you have some information which is a string, and then you want to join it to another string. So that process of combining two or more strings together, and the result is giving you a single string, is what we call concatenation. So in PHP there are literally there are two ways to concatenate strings. The first one is using a dot notation. One is using dot notation. Okay, and the other is using the curly bracket notation. But let's first concentrate on using dot notation. So we want to join concatenation. When you hear that word, it just means that you want to join two things together to come up with one. You want to join two strings, two sentences together, so that you can come up with only one. Okay, so let me say here I have a variable which is called first. Let me say first name. The first name equals Hakim. Okay. Okay, and then I'll create another variable which is last name. Last name underscore last name. Let me say equals Dumba. Let me hope that is the spelling. Is it capital D? Okay, that is Dumba. Okay, Dumba, I think it's capital D. Dumba. So after these two, I've created these two variables. One is first name, another one is last name, and they have values of Hakim and Dumba. Okay, so if I want to have a result of this, maybe I want to just concatenate the first name and the last name. Instead of just saying echo first name, echo last name, I can decide to concatenate them so that I can get one sentence. Okay, so what I'll say, I'll create then, I'll still create a data type which is, let me say, full name equals. Now with full name equals, now I'll call out, like the first one was first name. So this is dot notation. So we just first name, you call the variable, and then dot last, dot $, last name. Okay, so when I happen to echo $sign full name, when I happen to echo the full name, it will give me Akim Dumba. Have you understood what we're talking about here? That we are concatenating, we are joining two strings to get one. So Akim Dumba. However, if you notice very well, Akim Dumba, there is no space. So with that, if you want to create a space, you just go back to your concatenation line and just say first name dot the dot notation, then we give a space, and then we put double quotes and then a space, then we again dot. Okay, so when I go and I refresh, then it has created a space, Hakim Dumba. That is my man Hakim Dumba. Okay, is it Dumba Damba? Okay, so that is one way. So when we are adding or when we are joining two strings in PHP, we can use dot notation. So the dot, that first name dot space dot last name, gives us that what type of dot notation. Then the other kind form of notation that we have is the second one is it's called using curly bracket notation. Curly bracket notation. Okay, so how does that really work? Now with the curly bracket notation, let me first quote. Now for it is simply that when I get this line of code here, so I literally don't want to use the dot notation. I'll just say full name, then I'll open the brackets and quotes, and then I'll open this curly brackets, and I'll say I'll write $sign first name, I close it, I give a space, I open another one, I again call it last name. Okay, so this is the curly bracket notation. So when we happen to let me first comment the line of dot notation. When I happen to echo out full name, when I happen to okay, let me give another value of this for the king. I can use Sally Kevin. So now if I happen to echo full name, I will have Sally Kevin. Okay, so that is the curly bracket notation. So far we are doing well. We have talked about the different types of data types, variables, how to comment, and the concatenation in PHP. Oh, I think that we're doing really very well. So at this very point in time, we can wrap up our session with maybe writing a program. You allow me to give it a space, so we can maybe write a program that calculates the area, of a triangle. Okay, let's say there's a triangle of a triangle given the radius, not the base height times height, I have base and height. Okay, so we are to write a program that calculates the area of a triangle given the base and the height. So in this we know that what's the area of a triangle? The area of a triangle is given by, let me say, area A equals a half, which is 0.5. Let me just say a half multiply, that is by star, multiplied by base multiplied by height. So when you look through here, there are three containers. There are three containers we shall need just by understanding the area, how to calculate the area of a triangle. Now, because we see that we do have a container area, that this will contain our intended area to calculate. Then there is also this base, so we shall need a container to store our base, and also the container h, or height. So however, in this kind of program that I've mentioned, that they are going to give us the base and the height. So let me say that variable $sign variable base equals, let me say 10. Okay, then variable height equals could be 100. Okay, and then let us give the height 20. It was too high, so we give it 20, and then so those are two variables. We also need a variable that is going to create to hold the area. So I'll say $sign area equals a half, which is 0.5, times the base, which is $sign base, times $sign height. Okay. Whoa. So we have that. We have the variable for base with a value 10, variable for the height with a variable 20, and a variable area which has a formula that is we're going to use to calculate the area, which is a half, which is 0.5, multiplied by the base, which is 10, times the height. And when we happen to echo this, and I say echo area, what do we get? When I refresh, oh, they're saying there's an error. There's an expected error. Let us find out where is the error. Where could be the error? We have echo. We have the base, which is 10. We have the height, which is 20, and then we want to echo out the area, which is, and the area was given as a half multiplied by the base, and multiplied by the height. So height area equals area. Let us see where could be that. Oh, we have sorry, we still even have this information here. So we are calling out basically even almost two things. So let's first comment that. Let's go back and find out whether that's it. Oh, we still have let's say syntax error token because it's 928. Oh, there is equal sign. I see the equal sign here. So in echo there is equal sign. It's not it shouldn't be there. So when I echo again, I refresh, it's giving us 100. Hope we are getting that. So the area of the circle that has a base of 10 and a height of 20 is the area will be 100, and that is true. When you calculate it on a calculator, you'll see that we get 100. You can go on and actually even and we write a simple what? A simple result, a simple string about this. We can say, let me say, create a variable which is let me say result. You can say result result equal, it's a string, area of a triangle, the area of a triangle the area of a triangle given base, and now I'll call the base by the variable which is keeping it given base of given base of container and height of container, which is height and height of the area of a triangle given base of and the height of that value is, then I call that variable that is keeping is that. Okay, then this time round I will echo results. So it's saying that the area of a triangle given base of 10 and height of 20 is 100. Well, so when you understand when we get to understand variables and data types, we are able to have most programs easy for us to execute them, to learn to program them. Okay, with that being done and programmed, please allow me stop here. In case you have any other question, in case something is not clear, please, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to also learn from you. We are all fast learners. We are very happy to be here. Thank you very much. Otherwise, I'm so grateful that you've taken your Apple time to learn along with me. I wish you the best. Good luck.